Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 most shocking deaths within the Injustice franchise. Now for this video, I'll be taking influence from not only the games, but also the comic books, as the comic books do feature a hell of a lot of deaths, and are indeed canon. Now really anyone is viable for this list, regardless of if they're human or superpowered in nature. Anyone can really feature on here, and aren't really in any particular order. So I guess if you haven't actually read the comics, or know too much about the Injustice universe, consider this a massive spoiler warning for you. Anyway, on that note, let's actually get on to the video. Number 5, Green Arrow. Probably the most uncalled for death on this list. Oliver was unjustly murdered by Clark, and his death at the hands of the Man of Steel really did establish the dark road that Clark was going down. Now the reason why Clark had raised his hand to beat him down was because during a conflict at the end of year 1, Oliver had fired an arrow at Clark and it bounced off him and impaled Jonathan Kent, but didn't severely injure him. Now Clark took this the wrong way and saw this as a personal attack, despite this obviously being an accident. He set his eyes on the Emerald Archer and physically beat him to death, smashing him into the ground numerous times until he was nothing more than pretty much a bloody pulp. This death really did establish the villainous heart that Clark had now had. He didn't kill Oliver out of protection for his foster parent, he murdered him out of sheer rage and violence, and really at this point became the very thing he wanted to protect this world from. Number 4, Martian Manhunter. Arguably one of the most tragic deaths within Injustice, this one was most certainly one that was painful to watch. You see, at this point in time, the insurgency and regime was starting to establish themselves and a rift was opening up in the Justice League. You see, after the events of Metropolis, Martian Manhunter began to fear what Clark would become. This wasn't the same person who he had worked alongside, so he would work with Batman and his insurgency. Now during the events of year 1, he would eventually go face to face with Clark, but he wouldn't battle him. He instead talked to his former friend and wanted to reach out to him, making him realize that he isn't the only person to have lost his family. John Jones had the same thing done to him back on Mars when the White Martians enslaved his people. You see, John is pretty much the heart and soul of the Justice League. He'd rather talk it out than use physical violence to get his points across. And through his sincerity and words, you can see Clark begin to reconsider what he is doing. That is until Diana intervenes. She attacks the Martian, and in self-defense he fights back, morphing into her and telling her if she doesn't stop, then he will kill her if there's no other choice. This would lead to Diana to turn towards Clark and make him vaporize her with his heat vision, and this killed Martian Manhunter, arguably, as he does appear as DLC within the first Injustice game, but he doesn't appear within the main canon of Injustice 2. So until he does appear within something like the comics, or does resurface, I will deem the character for now as dead. Number 3, Captain Marvel / Shazam. To continue and establish how much of a dick that Superman actually is, he murdered a child. Well, more or less child. It's probably the most infamous death we've seen him cause in Injustice, instead of outside media like the comics, but it nonetheless is still extremely brutal. And how does this come by? Well, Clark is interested in invading other parallel universes, and Billy Batson is understandably very much so against this, as he dubs it as insane. Now Clark, seeing this as insubordination, will not allow him to talk like this to him in front of all of his, I'm using air quotes for this, friends. So he grabs Billy by the throat, freezes his mouth, preventing him from shouting Shazam, and burns a hole through his eyeballs to melt his brain and kill him. That is a awful, and I mean awful, way to die. My god, not only did Superman murder a child, but it goes to show you how far away he has strayed from his original philosophy, and really in comparison to what the original Man of Steel stands for. There is a massive gap between the two, and shows the difference between the two different ideologies. Number 2, Alfred Pennyworth. Continuing the train of Superman is a massive wanker, we have the death of Alfred Pennyworth. Now although Clark didn't kill Alfred himself, he was more or less responsible when he set Victor Zsasz on the old man. You see, how this came to be was during the end run of year 5 of the comics. Clark was searching the globe, hoping that he could track down Bruce, but of course he was unable to do so he went to the next best thing, Alfred Pennyworth. He threatened the old man and wanted to know the location of Bruce, but Alfred did not fear the Kryptonian. He lived long enough that he did not fear death, nor did he fear Clark. Now, to get back at Bruce in a very venomous way, he'd orchestrate the death of Alfred by the hands of Victor Zsasz. He'd taken him out of confinement and left him in the Batcave to murder the butler. Now, the main reason that Clark had in fact done this is to make Bruce feel the same sorrow that he had felt. Clark was hoping that in Bruce's sorrow, he'd be able to appeal to him and have him join his regime. Of course, Bruce suspected that he had played a part in this and rejected his offer, but again, it goes to show how much of a dick Superman is. Now, this is my honorable mention, and it's one that's pretty pivotal to the plot of Injustice: Lois Lane and the Joker's death. Pretty much the main reason for the Injustice universe existing. The death of Lois Lane is extremely shocking, as it does strip Superman of not only the family he wanted, but also his humanity. It's what really set the gears in motion of showing us that this comic book line will really kind of push the boundaries of what can happen in superhero comics. The Joker's death as well is what broke up the Justice League. A character like the Joker is so iconic, so it makes it ultimately that much more shocking when he is killed off. Now, although the Joker may be dead, I guarantee you that the Clown Prince of Crime must be laughing in the afterlife to see all the mayhem and chaos he has caused from just killing one single individual and completely changing what a standard DC universe can be. Now, at number 1, we probably have the most soul-shattering one of the bunch: the death of Nightwing. What makes this one so incredibly painful is not only in the manner it's done, but also the randomness of how it goes about. You see, Nightwing has always been extremely close to Bruce, so understandably when a rift does open up in the Justice League, he's there to help his foster father, and even goes to help him at Arkham Asylum. He is in fact the voice of reason. He doesn't want anything to happen, and if anything, he wants things to go back to what they were. But when a riot ensues, and he's hit in the head by a baton from Damian, he falls over unconscious and lands on a rock in just the right spot that it in fact snaps his neck. The randomness and the aftermath is what makes this death so incredibly shocking. You see, all fighting ceases at this point, and not only are the heroes shocked to see what has happened, but so are the villains. The superheroes aren't the only people that mourn for his death. The villains feel it as well, as Nightwing, although someone that has continued to upset their plans time and time again, and be just a general annoyance, has never been someone to go so far to have physically incapacitated them, as it's not in Dick Grayson's nature. If anything, Dick Grayson made frenemies out of the people he put in Arkham, so it makes his death not only a very bitter pill to swallow for the heroes, but also the villains. And at this point right here, it also establishes within the Injustice universe that no one at all is safe. Anyone can die, and that's why Nightwing's death is so incredibly shocking within the Injustice universe. It sets the tone of the comics and games from that point onwards. Anyone can die, and no one is safe. So yeah, that's kind of it for this video. I do apologize if this has a rather dark tone to it, but I feel like this is something I really wanted to talk about, as the comics have so much material going on in there, and the Injustice universe is a very interesting one. So I wanted to put my own opinion out there and let you guys know about where I personally stand on some of the character deaths within the comics and game. Now, just a heads up guys, this Saturday, if you are a massive Tekken fan, I'll be talking and giving a background check on the beautiful Christy Monteiro, and on Sunday, I'll be giving out my first impressions on Dragon Ball FighterZ. I got my hands on it very early at a tournament I was playing last week, so I'll put out my thoughts there, and oh my god, this game is fucking amazing. Just saying, I'm gonna keep my hype up for that video. But if you are a massive Dragon Ball Z fan and you are interested in the game, keep an eye out for Sunday's video. Now, before this video wraps up guys, if possible, let's try getting it to about 500 likes. It's a great way of supporting this channel, as YouTube's ad system is broken as hell right now, so by giving it a thumbs up, it helps out a ton. Now, as always guys, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I'll see you all next time.